Hello, how's it going, cracks? Thanks for being here. This is The World, Maldini, your channel. Benfica 4, Barça 5. Incredible match, tremendous match, spectacular match, from which I want to comment on quite a few things. First, I want to point out something that I think is important. This is your channel, and I explain these things. Obviously, yesterday I was at the Metropolitano commenting on the Atletico de Madrid Bayer Leverkusen match. In fact, you have a video while we see the joy of the Barca players. You have a video from the Atletico de Madrid Bayer Leverkusen match right after it ended at the Metropolitano. And the match notes, the post-match right after this Benfica Barca ended was done, and very well, by the way, David Dieguez, who is a true star. But I promised you that when I watched the match, which I obviously couldn't see live, when I watched the match, you would have a video analyzing it, and you're also going to get the notes. Shortly after the Barca in this Barca-Benfica, that is to say, in addition to my opinion, which you'll get a little later than usual, you also have David Dieguez's. I think it was important, of course, besides the fact that he's a phenomenon. It was important. I wanted to make a video for your channel right after the match ended. A video that obviously I couldn't do because I was at the Metropolitano covering the Atletico de Madrid Bayer Leverkusen. That said, which I think is important, well, many of you have mentioned it in the comments, why aren't you making the video? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. Let's analyze the match. I've already seen it complete. When you watch a complete match knowing the result and what happened logically, it really influences a lot. It's true that it influences a lot. Here we have Raphinha, but it also helps you to see many more things, many more whys. And beyond the tremendous match that it was, the controversial plays that I want to analyze with you and share my opinion. We're also going to do some reporting. Why scout, of course. Beyond the great match that Raphinha had, the fantastic match from Pedri, I want to say one thing, and that is that the victory of Barca was not only fair to me, but it should have been more comfortable. Because in the end, Barca was close to losing the match. If Barca goes into halftime losing 3-1, it's not because they were inferior. In my opinion, the first half was for Benfica. It was because Chesney was a complete disaster. It's just that when your goalkeeper really gives away 2 goals, well, in the end, or makes 2 serious mistakes on 2 goals, in the end, that affects the result. But for me, Barca was superior. Practically from the first minute. It's true that there was a moment when Benfica really went on the attack. They really put a lot of pressure. It does quite a bit of damage. On Alvaro's side, by the way, he did really well making runs down the left side. He caused quite a bit of trouble there, especially to Koundé. I didn't like Koundé's match. Then you're going to see the match ratings, but I didn't like Koundé's performance. But beyond that, I think Barca wasn't just superior. They were much superior to Benfica. And it's true that Barca won the match in the same way they could have lost it, because it's clear that they won it in the very last moment in a match that was practically heading for a draw. And just before that, Barca was almost with the match lost, because you see, with 3-1 or 4-2, but really, Benfica caused a lot of trouble for Barca down the right side of their defense. That's true. Barca had to end up putting practically everything they had into their attack. I've prepared this screenshot for you as well, since I made the video a little later. Well, it gives you time to do more things, logically. It's not just the pure post-match. Well, this screenshot I've taken from the match as well, so you can see how Barca ended up attacking. Sure, here it was already 4-3, but this was already happening with 4-2, right? Frankie de Jong came on for Casado, more Pedri. Then with the notes, I'm going to talk a lot more. But well, Raphinha, Lamine Yamal, Fermin, and Lewandowski together, which is quite unusual. And on the left, Fermin, who then moved inside. Now let's talk about the controversial plays. Let's talk about the controversial plays. Benfica started off well, causing a lot of damage on the left side, I say, with Alvaro Carreras and very well Pavlidis, who had the match of the season for sure, because he's not having a good season. Pavlidis. But Barca bounces back and had total control of the game, an absolute control of the game, of ball possession and play. Really, I mean, Benfica was practically on the back foot for most of the match, quite dominated by Barca throughout the game. In fact, I'm going to prove it with the Y-Scout report, friends from Mundo, Maldini. Let's take a look at the Y-Scout report on what Barca was like in terms of possession. And Benfica, who were really packed in the back of what it was. Barca, in terms of possession, and Benfica, very much packed in the back, very well fortified at the back, almost permanently. You're going to see, for example, here you have, which is something I really like to show, here you have the ball possession. Well, Barca, red line, Benfica, Barca, dark line. Benfica, red line, here you have it. First half, 27, Benfica, 73 Barca. Second half, 24, 76. It's true that Benfica scores very early, and that probably gives Barca even more control. But, well, the accuracy of the passes, look, Barca is much superior. Percentage of duels won, Barca is much superior. Basically, they were winning almost all the duels. So was Barca losing? 3-1 and then 4-2, especially 3-1 at halftime. It's exclusively, or almost exclusively, then Benfica also has to be accurate, but almost exclusively because of Szczesny's mistakes. It's also true that they give away a goal. Trubin in the second half with that shot that almost hits Raphinha on the head. But, well, offensive actions per minute, much more for Barca. Recoveries, much more for Barca per minute. The intensity of the pressing, as I always mentioned, the PPD, Barca was much better. In other words, Barca was, for me, not superior. They were much better than Benfica. Much better than Benfica. I watched the whole match, calmly analyzing it well, and I saw a Barca that was much better. And then there are several things I want to analyze. First, great game from Gavi in the pressing. Great game from Gavi in the pressing. Then I'll finish the video with some more details about Vscout and the controversies. And an exceptional match, obviously, of Raphinha. Exceptional match from Raphinha, but absolutely colossal. Match by Pedri. Pedri is here. It's happening. I want to pause a bit on the topic of Pedri because Pedri, Friends of the World, Maldini, is going through the best moment of his career. I mean, it's been a spectacle, one match after another. Watching Pedri, that's how it is. That's how it is. And guiding the team, controlling the midfield, making key passes, organizing the team. Here we have Pedri. Here he is. Pedri's form is colossal, especially in the second half when Barca had to come back in the match and could be a little more rushed. It's Pedri who brings the calm. I remember once talking about, Valdés once told me while talking about Maradona that Menotti and Bilardo all said, do you know how many balls you need to give to Maradona? All of them. Well, right now it seems like, do you know how many balls you need to give to Pedri? All of them. Well, right now it seems like, do you know how many balls you need to give to Pedri? All of them. How many balls do you need to give to Pedri? All of them, because what Pedri is doing in the midfield of Barcelona is spectacular. How he's guiding the team, how he's participating in goal plays. It's a real spectacle. Friends of the World, Maldini, about Pedri. Barca crushed Benfica in the second half, and Benfica practically had no resources to get out. They practically had no resources to get out. I want us to see the recital of Pedri. Here we have it. The recital of Pedri. Here we have it. 129 actions. 101 successful passes, 78%, 89% of passes, 4 dribbles, all 4 completed. 1 match, especially the second half, the team carried itself in such a spectacular way. 4 dribbles, all 4 completed. 1 match, especially the second half, the team carried itself in such a spectacular way. Pedri. It was a true marvel, Friends of the World, Maldini. It was a true marvel to see Pedri's second half. Other players I liked Gavi. Of course I liked him. Gavi, of course I liked him. I really liked Gavi's match. There's another detail I want to mention at the end, and let's move on to the controversies. But I really liked Gavi's match. Also, especially in the pressure. But look at the difference in actions. 49 actions out of 120. About Pedri. What Pedri did was, the match that Pedri played is out of competition. It's out of competition. And I have to say one thing. The one I didn't like at all. He had a very weak match. It was this man, Lamine Yamal. A very weak match from Lamine Yamal. And that has a positive interpretation. I mean, Barca ended up winning a match that had gotten really complicated, playing, for me, a great game. Another thing is that he had defensive errors, especially Szczesny, I insist, playing a great game, and he didn't play a good game. Lamine Yamal. That means the team's room for growth when Lamine Yamal is not doing well is very evident. Very evident. The controversies, well, the penalty on Valdés was obvious. I don't think there's much doubt. The penalty on Lamine Yamal, I don't think so. I have to say, I don't think it's a penalty. He just touches his shoulder a little bit. The thing is, I think it's a pretty light penalty. Pretty light. Here we have Raphinha and Fermin. It's a pretty light penalty. Friends of Mundo, Maldini. For me, the one they call on Lamine Yamal, they touch him a little and he falls down, and the referee calls a penalty. The thing is, the VAR doesn't review those kinds of actions that can be interpreted. Not them. They review them. And then the last play by Fermin, I don't think it's a penalty either on Barreiro. There's minimal contact and Barreiro just falls down. Just like I don't think the one on Lamine Yamal is a penalty. I don't think so. Penalty on Barreiro. Then comes the counter-attack play and Raphinha's goal, which gives Barca 3 points and mathematically qualifies Barca for the round of 16 of the Champions League. The fact that I didn't think it was a penalty, the one on Lamine Yamal, doesn't mean that Barca didn't deserve to win in a match that was very close. Obviously, if they didn't win. But for me, Barca deserved to win it. The match deserved to be won. If we wrap up this analysis with some details, let's take a look at some colder details from the match. Here we have the positions of the two teams. Obviously, Barca is much higher up, also affected because they conceded a goal very early and found themselves down 2-0 very quickly. Benfica, much further back, really sunk, especially in the second half. And we're going to end up looking at some statistics that are overwhelming. For example, shots, 10 from Benfica, 21 from Barca. 11 between the posts, 5 for Benfica. Ball possession, 25-75. That is to say, even though possession doesn't always indicate which team has played better, that's true, but they shot more than double. They shot more than double on target. In other words, Barca was, for me, far superior to Benfica. That is the reality. And they won a tremendous match. That final heroism adds even more epicness to a game in which Barca, for me, friends from the world, Maldini was quite superior. You'll have the ratings too. A hug. Bye.